Going out for groceries is something we all missed during the pandemic. It was a revelation how much of our routines and mental health relied on leaving the house to stock up on groceries and then lurk around thinking if we really needed that one extra packet of potato chips. But since the pandemic, the way we buy our groceries has changed. Some of the urban population have now permanently switched to getting groceries online. There are so many ways to get farm fresh produce on our doorsteps with all the apps available to us. It's faster, easier, and cheaper sometimes. The whole process has been simplified by making it easier and more profitable for the farmer, supplier, and business owner as well. This is a win-win situation for everyone involved. In today's episode, we'll discuss how digitizing grocery shopping has proven to be beneficial for both the city dweller and the next half billion.
The next half billion, or the NHB, are the core of this podcast. They represent the second big wave of internet users in India, hence the term next. We define them as the cohort of 500 million first-time internet users that have come online via their mobile phones in 5 years. From a demographic standpoint, they are mainly from the bottom 60% of India's income distribution. They are owners of small businesses like beauty salons and kirana shops, and also blue-collar workers, domestic workers, security guards, etc. They are building a greater comfort with tech and represent the hustle and ambition of an aspiring India. I'm Utsav, an ex-engineer turned market researcher, traveler, and podcaster.
And I'm Nivedita, also an ex-engineer turned comedian and writer. You're listening to Smartphone Nation, how the next half billion are shaping their future online. In today's episode, we'll tell you how smartphones have made grocery cheaper and easier to access than ever before.
Tell me something, Nivedita. Have you ever smelled rice before you bought it?
I've seen my mother inspect the rice with her hands before, but why would I smell my rice?
My extended family is in the rice trading business. They buy in bulk and use the smell test. It's backed by science though. All rice contains a molecule called acetylpyrroline. Indian basmati has larger quantities of acetylpyrroline, which is why they are known for their fragrance. In fact, India is known for fragrant rice. Ambe mohar from Maharashtra, which smells of mangoes when it's cooked, or sticky black rice, chak hao amubi from Manipur.
If I cooked rice and it started smelling like mangoes, it would totally throw me off, but I guess it's cultural as well, right? In Tamil Nadu, we don't use basmati rice as much. Even in biryanis, we use jeera samba rice. And the rest of the time, we use other versions of small grain rice like punni. Have you heard of that? With rice, I guess you just buy what you think is right and then hope for the best.
Yeah, I get that. As much as I believe I'm an adult, I'm pretty poor at buying groceries. So I end up buying online. I dabble in all formats, the 24-hour to the 10-minute delivery. Nothing spells convenience like getting curd at a click.
What about fruits and vegetables? How fresh are they when you get them online?
They're okay. I've received wilted spinach quite often. The bananas are the worst. You usually get them either too unripe or so ripe that I would need to eat half a dozen in a day. It can be a bit of a hit and miss.
Yeah, you're right. But good thing I like bananas. Freshness is not the only problem though. Even with staple foods like food grains and oil, it's all getting more expensive. And in 2022, the inflation rate in India was close to 7%. But household incomes have either declined or remained stagnant.
So essentially, the ability to spend on groceries comes down. How are Indians tackling this freshness and value need?
And let's not forget the farmers. They're the ones growing all our food. All these problems have led to startups that are solving the farm-to-table issue. Abhishek Dama, who started out as an electronics and communication engineer, developed a passion for organic farming. His family wanted him to pursue the coveted Indian civil services, but Abhishek instead became a farmer and agripreneur.
I can grow multi-crop vegetables in an open field. At a particular time period, I'm able to get 5 vegetables from a particular farm. So how I mulch all these vegetables, I know the botanical names, I know the families of the particular vegetables, why and mixing all these vegetables. I know each and everything. I have studied, I have researched all of the things I have learned from YouTube only. So what I have learned from YouTube, then I applied to my own field and I got my own observations. So I have 10-15 techniques of cultivating, but I know 200 techniques who doesn't work on the agriculture field.
200 ways of farming. I didn't even know that many existed.
Neither did I until I spoke with Abhishek. Indian agricultural production has been growing steadily at around 5% for the last 6 years. And while food grains have a longer shelf life, fruits and vegetables are perishable and need to be consumed anywhere between a few hours to a few days of harvesting. It's hard getting it from farm to table.
So, this is where companies like OTP come in. Varun Khurana, founder of OTP, came from a background of grocery delivery. He intrinsically understood that e commerce supply chains are not built for products like fruits and vegetables. He also uncovered a few harsh truths about the business.
A big factor also is that the wastages are very high in this supply chain. So to the tune of like 35%, 40%. So, that was when I kind of analyzed both parts. I figured there are huge gaps and, there's a huge opportunity, if you're to solve some of these challenges. So if a farmer is growing, from his standpoint, keeping in mind that, when the price is going to be the maximum, the bigger the piece, the more, value he thinks he can get. While the reality is that, that's not always true, because given that they're nuclear families these days, so typically, if I just take the case in point of watermelon as an example, so while earlier, people used to buy like those 6 kg pieces and the whole family would eat together. These days people prefer, 2 to 3 kgs for a family of 3 or 4. Those are the kind of differences between what farmers grow and what people expect. And also there's a huge price markup. So farmers typically only get about a fourth or a fifth of the price that an end consumer pays.
And wastage is not just about poor quality produce. With time, the nutritional value of food also comes down, making it a double whammy for the end consumer.
So it's important to go from farm to table quickly. Unfortunately, today fruits and vegetables go through multiple steps, from the farm to an aggregator who would load produce from different farmers, who would then take it to a mandi. At the mandi, the next buyer may be someone like a supermarket chain, who would then take it to a supermarket next to your house, and then it waits for it to be picked by customers like you and me. That's a lot of wait.
Yeah, that's why OTP focuses on cutting down this wait. Since they solve the problem end to end, they not only source from the farmer, but they also know who exactly the end consumer is. Based on the demand algorithms, they're able to estimate how much of each fruit and vegetable they would need. And they quickly relay this information to the farmers, telling them exactly how much to harvest. Let's listen to Abhishek, who is an OTP supplier running a farmer producer organization, with his experience.
So they taught us that don't go for unique articles. Yes, you have to have one or two unique articles. So there will be a demand of the companies are looking for you, that yes, only the premium spinach can comes from that particular vendor. So yes, develop your unique skills, but what you have to do, you have to diversify also. You need seasonal vegetables also to so that your load will become at a point where your transportation and your all the logistics cost and your all the the expenses, the labor expenses will be made out. So they taught us the way they how to become a vendor, how to become a successful vendor also, and they helped me also to become a successful vendor.
OTP's way of working reduces the time from a few days to under 12 hours. So since the wastage is less because of accurate demand prediction, the farmer ends up making more on their produce.
That's great, but how do they deliver the last mile? Like, you get it from the farm to the warehouse, but how does it reach the end consumer?
They employ people from all walks of life. These partners or resellers are people who fulfill deliveries early in the morning, right? They could have a day job like running a beauty parlor or a store, or even could be homemakers. Take Manisha Sood, who lives in the Vikaspuri area of Western Delhi. She starts her day at 4 in the morning and ends her deliveries by 8 a.m. She has been working with OTP for the last 3 years, and it has given her not just an income, but an identity beyond that of a homemaker.
So the children are happy that mom is finally doing something professional, and I'm equally delighted because being confined to the house can limit one's social interactions. When you're actively engaged and people start to recognize and appreciate your efforts, it's always a unique feeling. It motivates me to do more. And sometimes we reflect, about where we used to be and how far we've come. I think there's an inner joy because you've accomplished something significant.
Narinder Mohan, another reseller, had a completely different transformation.
एक दिन इन्होंने मेरा ब्लड टेस्ट करा दिया तो
One day, my family got my blood test done, and the entire report was off the chart. Cholesterol levels through the roof, sky high triglyceride, borderline sugars, and soaring blood pressure. That's when my daughter in law said, "Get rid of the delivery boy, start with Otipy, and commit to at least 3 hours of daily physical exercise. It will make a big difference." So, in about 5 to 6 months, the results were so drastic that even the doctor was surprised. He asked, "At your age, how did all this become normal so quickly?" He used to warn me in winter not to step outside because there was a possibility of a heart attack. I said, "No, I'll wear warm clothes, but I'll go every day." And I did consistently and finally shed 20 kgs of weight. And today, my report is perfectly normal.
But while fruits and vegetables form a significant part of household expenses, what about other groceries? How are they being made affordable for India's next half billion?
We'll get to that too, but after a short break. Welcome back to Smartphone Nation. Let's now look at how groceries are becoming affordable for India's next half billion. So tell me, Nivedita, have you heard of the following brands? Kesari Chakki Fresh Atta, Sparsh Masalas, Town Grocer Sugar, and GTS Bullet Rice.
Nope, doesn't ring a bell. Haven't heard any of them.
You wouldn't have, because these are not exactly national brands, and they are usually 20 to 30% cheaper than the national brands you're all aware of. Selling groceries to India's next half billion is significantly different from selling to India's elite, the top 5%. Here's Badri Pelipakkam, an investor from Omidyar Network India.
The first difference is the basket tends to be different, which means more staples, dal, rice, oil, those kinds of things. Little less on the BPC category, which is beauty and personal care. But still, there are still some, you can still find the right mix. Equally, so the category mix will be different, but equally the brands will be very different, right? So what we call aspirational brands on the beauty and personal care side, and what we call functional brands on the staples, even the fruits and vegetables, right? So it'll be very different, not what the 5% audience has ever been exposed to. Will have a strong regional flavor, right? Even the atta they use will be different. The texture of the atta will be different. So it'll have a strong regional flavor. And most importantly, from an economics perspective, if the average order value in a main city can be, at a minimum 750 going up to 1,500 rupees, you have to build for an average order value of 200 to 250 rupees.
If the order value is low, the products need to be cheaper. How do you do that?
This is where DealShare comes in. Vineet Rao, the founder and CEO, hails from Jaipur. After having spent many years in the US working with the likes of Microsoft, he returned home and came to a realization that middle class and lower middle class in India spend a very significant amount of money on groceries, and people were paying too much for it. This is also the idea most direct-to-consumer brands have today: provide a good quality product at a price much lower than established brands. DealShare wanted to get off the starting line quickly. Here's Vineet.
So when we started the business, we did not build any app. We did not, build any product. We just started selling on WhatsApp. So we said, we know a few people, they know a few people, they know a few people. Let's just get, start to sell and try to understand, talk to the consumers, do the deliveries, meet with them, and then keep on iterating and making better. So I think what consumers, love us for a number of things, but the most important is that they, for the first time, feel that somebody is building a solution, a product for them.
To provide lucrative discounts to consumers, DealShare took two routes. For some categories, they contracted manufacturers of products and launched their own brands. In others, they tied up with local manufacturers who had strong regional brands but lacked direct access to the consumer. This ensured that they could get lower prices, thereby cutting out the traditional offline distribution model, which usually increases price and eats into margins.
That's interesting because the Indian consumer is hugely value conscious. So I understand why people wanted to use DealShare. But I'm curious, what happened when they moved to an app? For the next half billion, the app ecosystem is relatively new, and most apps have a very Western influenced design language, not the most suitable for first time smartphone users.
Well, DealShare realized that it needed the user experience to be different early on. So it did not ask for an email sign up. Because for a whole new generation of Indians, their phone number is their identity online. Even if they have an email, they would not remember passwords or use it sparingly. They simply went with a mobile phone based login and PIN code to check serviceability.
The other thing which I liked is the language support. It's available in the local language apart from English. Also, given that many of the next half billion consumers will not have credit cards or net banking, they provide a very uncluttered payment experience, either UPI or cash on delivery, both of which consumers are comfortable with.
The next half billion are demanding value for the money they spend, but not at the cost of quality. And among them are emerging entrepreneurs, farmers who no longer have to rely on mandis and middlemen and sell directly to companies like Otipy, and the business owners of regional brands who are finding new markets and consumers through companies like DealShare. Their rising income and financial independence is enabled by the device that fits in the palm of your hand.
Thank you for tuning into Smartphone Nation. I'm Utsav.
And I am Nivedita. This was Smartphone Nation. Tune in next week for another story on how the next half billion are shaping their future online. If you like our show, please subscribe to the Smartphone Nation YouTube channel. Don't forget to rate and review us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Share this episode with your friends as it helps the show reach more people.
You can listen and subscribe to Smartphone Nation on the IVM Podcasts app or wherever you get your podcasts. This podcast is also available in Hindi and Tamil. A special thanks to Omidyar Network India for making this season possible. To know how ONI is partnering with bold and purpose-driven entrepreneurs who are working to improve the lives of India's next half billion, visit omidyarnetwork.in. Tell us what you think of the show. You can find our hosts on Twitter and Instagram. Utsav can be found on the Instagram ID at YWTravel42. You can reach out to Nivedita on Instagram at niv.prakasam. You can follow IVM on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram at the ID at IVM Podcasts.
IVM